नमस्कार, आदाब। मैं हूं इरफान और जैसा कि आपने देखा होगा गुफ्तगू प्लेलिस्ट में अशरफ अज़ीज़ एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण, बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट एक गेस्ट हैं, जो वैसे तो टैंगानिका में पैदा हुए, यानी कि अफ्रीका में, और बाद में उन्होंने लंबा समय अपना गुजारा हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी में एनाटॉमी पढ़ाते हुए। और इस दौरान एक बड़े फिल्म पत्रकार राजू भारतन जो हुए, राजू भारतन की कोई किताब पढ़कर, और ये बात आपने गुफ्तगू के उस एपिसोड में सुनी होगी जहां मैंने उनके साथ एक लंबी बातचीत की है, जब वो 2018 में पहली बार शायद 85 साल की उम्र में भारत आए। लेकिन जो उनका हिंदी फिल्में और हिंदी फिल्मों से जुड़ा हुआ संगीत, उससे जो उनका प्यार है, वो राजू भारतन की किताब पढ़ने के बाद उनके अंदर, उनके दिल में वो प्यार जगा। और फिर उन्होंने लंबे लेख और भारतीय जो फिल्मों का संगीत है, ख़ासतौर पर हिंदी फिल्मों का जो संगीत है, उसके बारे में उन्होंने बहुत ही गहराई से सोचा, बहुत ही पैशनेटली लिखा। और जब वो पहली बार 2018 में भारत आए तो उन्होंने बैजू बावरा के बहाने हिंदी फिल्मों के संगीत को लेकर एक लंबा भाषण दिया। तो यहाँ पेश है वो एक लंबा भाषण जो लगभग अविकल, अनएडिटेड आपके लिए पेश कर रहा हूँ।
With our hearts, we remember with love Mahatma Gandhi, Pandit Nehru, and all those innocent people who 1 century ago in Amritsar, in Jallianwala Bagh, lost their lives. Let us be quiet for a moment of remembrance. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you all for having me, for being with me. There is an Iranian word, Farsi word, hamdami. Hamdami. Hamdami means breathing together, breathing together. And it takes a special kind of relationship, a deep relationship, when people are able to sit together and share the breath. Because it is that breath which contains the spirit giving us life. Thank you for sharing your lives with me in the moments that are happening right now. I am very appreciative of being here, very grateful. I gave a talk yesterday. It has taken me 80 years to come to India. My grandfather, Baba Hakimdeen, left India, was taken away from India, went into exile to build the railways. He worked for the British India Railways. And in 1896, the only way, because the word naukri, slavery, was a bad word in his dictionary. He considered himself to be a slave. And the only way he could become free was to take that journey to East Africa to build the first railway line in British East Africa. From Mombasa to Voi, 100 miles. It is said that of the 10 people who went there, only 2 came back. There was no penicillin. None of the amenities available today were available then. Africa was wild. There were many diseases, malaria, typhoid. And then not only that, the exhaustion of the work. Many who went there just got tired and just remained there and never returned to India. My granddad did. He did. He returned, became a free man, bought a piece of land. He was a karigar, a blacksmith and a carpenter. became free. And then after the Amritsar massacre, my father and my mom left the Punjab and went to the newly freed nation of Tanganyika. Tanganyika used to be German East Africa. In World War I, the British Indian Army liberated German East Africa. The Kashmiri Rifles and the Punjab Rifles, they liberated my hometown, Tanga, before I was born. So a long journey began. My parents established a family in East Africa. We never had a chance to come back to India. We were born in diaspora. But there was a culture, thank God. My mom was a singer, Viva Geet, Punjabi marriage songs. But Baby Ji was what? She was an artist of many talents. Her curiosity, all of the arts related to the marriage, cooking, embroidery, the selection of jewelry, all of this, we did not consider it to be art because women did it. She was not appreciated as an artist, but she was. And therefore, my dad also did Punjabi poetry. So there was a mahal of poetry. We grew up in that. And we were told, as we were growing up as children, you must live in the rainbow. Life is very precious. It has many colors. You must live in it. Do a little bit of this. Do a little bit of that. It doesn't matter if you're not master of it. At least you will know who is really good at doing that. Gana gao. You may not sing as well as Kundan Lal Saigal, but in your failure you will appreciate how supreme Kundan Lal Saigal is. So we grew up in a Renaissance home. Punjabi was our mother tongue. Punjabi is my mother tongue. That is numero uno. All other tongues, they are beautiful. But my mother's voice first came to me in that language. And so it was spoken, and we spoke it. But not as well as some of you real Punjabis do here. Because the culture that came to Africa, these were working people. They had simple languages. And then the total mahal was not there. Okay? So even Hindustani, I don't speak Urdu, I don't speak Hindi. But I speak Hindustani. Okay? Because it is easier. It is also it's a meeting ground. It is a meeting ground of our peoples. And Hindi filmed and their songs helped. They sent deep love of our language. Our language is in me. And luckily, I have my language, because when you lose your language, you are lost. So it has taken me, and then of course, in 1965, I got a scholarship to go to the United States of America, and I've traveled even further away from from India. And I cannot explain to you why I never came here. There were many opportunities, but you know, there's a time for everything. So it has taken me 80 years to take this trip. I gave a talk yesterday, and my brother was with me, but I wanted to get away from him. I wanted to go back to my room because I did not want to cry in front of him. I did not. I wanted to go and shed tears of gratitude to all of you for having me here. My grandfather is dead. My grandma is gone. My father is dead. My mom is gone. But their blood is living here. And they tell me to tell you, we love you. We bless you. And thank you for having our son and grandson back. Thank you so much for having me here. So, my topic today is Vijay Bhatt's Baiju Bawra, and the subtitle is On the Origins of the Building Blocks of Democracy in India. Let me start with a preamble. His cabinet of 9 ministers, Nauratans, included one of India's greatest musicians of Hindustani classical music, Mian Tansen. He was empowered to oversee social and cultural aspects of citizens' lives. He was given substantial power to regulate the quality of music and other related arts in the kingdom. He was the boss of cultural affairs. The written historical record, including the Akbarnama, being the chronicle of the emperor's rule. Akbar himself could not read and write. He was an oral man. But history records him as one of the most enlightened rulers of history. Anyway, Akbarnama, being the chronicle of the emperor's rule, has no record of an individual such as Baiju Bawra or Baijnath. However, in the vernacular oral culture, folk tales, poetry and songs, there is mention of an accomplished singer of bhajans, being Hindu devotional songs. In folk culture, there is mention of several memorable singer artists and dancers who lived during the times of actual historical kings. Common people could not read. They could not read history, and the oral media were used by them to recall past times. Since the popular Hindi film is made for common folk of India, many films have been made chronicling the lives of their beloved artists in oral history. The plot. The plot unfolds in India's venerated land between the 2 great holy rivers, Ganga and Jumna. The latter and their basins are traditionally considered to be holy ground. It is around this area that the Edenic Vrindavan garden, woods, which were home to the mythic lovers Radha and Krishna, grew. The latter is an avatar of Lord Vishnu, the great preserver. The Ganges and Jamuna are regarded as being holy by the Hindus and all members of related faiths. Another great Hindu deity supplying the mythic dimension of the plot is Lord Shiva, the choreographer of life's cycle. So here's the timeline of Baiju Bawra. Mythic, provided by Hindu deities, Lord Shiva and Vishnu, presented as the avatar, as presented as an avatar as Krishna. And then there is the historic dimension, Mughal medieval India of the 16th century. Then again, the movie is being watched by viewers in post-independence India. So there are 2 dimensions of time in Baiju Bawra, the mythic dimension and the historic dimension. in the best popular film of India. The truth of the matter is, from the very beginning, Indian film is dharmic film. The cinema, our cinema, is an auxiliary of the temple. We go to the film, whatever the plot, we go to the film in order to see the reenactments, to see all dimensions of life, mythic and historic. Now the sequential plot. Bullet point. Tansen issues an edict forbidding ordinary folk from singing. In other words, he institutes censorship unless they could perform better than him. In other words, quality control. Punishment for singing a mediocre song, death. Second point. Baiju's father, a common folk musician, tries to teach his son Baiju the communal spiritual song, the latter being the thread which joins the family, the village, and their guiding spirits together. Singers of bhajans, Hindu devotional music, are very important providers of the glue that binds society together. Bullet point. When the authorities hear Baiju's father singing, he is promptly taken under custody. Before dying in the dungeon, the father instructs his son Baiju to exact revenge, badla, and to free the song from the claws of authorities, Tansen. Point. A Pandit's family adopts the orphan Baiju to raise him into manhood. Baiju falls in love with the beautiful Gauri, the boatman's daughter. The boatman's daughter. Love's intoxication causes Baiju to forget about the promised vengeance or securing the song's freedom. Bachpan ki mohabbat ko raag mand. Baiju and Gauri sing duets of joy. They call for the life-giving monsoons to visit their land. Jhule mein pavan ki aayi bahar, raag pilu. Roopmati, the dacoit princess, attacks Baiju's village. Baiju sings a powerful melody which stops the attack. Roopmati is enchanted by Baiju. She agrees to stop looting if Baiju would live with her. In her hideout, Baiju learns that Roopmati was actually a princess who had lost her small fiefdom to Akbar. She too is seeking revenge, badla. This awakens Baiju's memory. Revenge it must be. Badla, main badla lunga. He must find Tansen and slit his singing throat. Insan bano karlo bharai ka koi kaam. Raag todi. One dark night, Baiju steals into Mia Tansen's villa. Tansen is singing an enchanting sargam of the Raga Darbari. Baiju is so mesmerized that his sword misses Tansen's neck and kills the Tanpura. The sargam is silenced. Point. Tansen tells Baiju, "You cannot kill my song with a sword, son. Sing for me a melody so embedded in melancholy that it will finish me off, hamesha ke liye. You and your song will then be free." Baiju realizes that violence is pointless and that he does not have the kind of song that Tansen speaks of. He lacks education in music. He neither has the language nor the logic to defend free speech. Song. Tansen had received lifelong education of Hindustani classical music, which had enabled him to create songs of great merit, power, and magic. Baiju must seek such good education. Not only seek good education, but better education. Indeed, best education. He must find Swami Haridas, Tansen's own guru, and face Tansen. Swami Haridas tells Baiju that in order to sing life's true song, he must forsake revenge and find true love. Pure love is the spring of melody with magic. He gives him a veena and conditionally accepts him as his pupil. Baiju tells Gauri he cannot return to the village and marry her. Revenge comes first. Pehle main badla lunga. Haridas instructs Baiju that without experiencing the total agony of lost love, he will never find the melody that he seeks. Gauri overhears this conversation and decides to make the ultimate sacrifice. Gauri is bitten by a snake and becomes unconscious. Baiju thinks she is dead and goes insane with grief. He now sings his great song of Shikwa and Shikayat at Shivji's temple. The song is so powerful that Lord Shiva, the statue of the Lord, starts to weep. O duniya ke rakhwale, sun dard bhare mere nale. Raga Darbari. The police arrest Baiju and he is told to compete in a song duel with Tansen to gain his freedom. Akbar would adjudicate the context. Aaj gavat man mero jhoom ke, raga deshi. Baiju and Tansen engage in jugalbandi. Their voices and the competing messages they carry cross like vocal swords in the air. Eventually, Baiju's song melts the marble. He is the winner. He and his song are free. Meanwhile, of course, Gauri never did actually die. Baiju returns to the village by the Ganga. The river is in flood. Baiju and Gauri swim towards each other, embrace, and are together swallowed by the raging Ganga. Tu Ganga ki mauj mein Jamuna ka dhara. Bhairavi. Now, since the beginning of cinema in India, feature films endeavored to elude censorship in order to reach the masses, to unite them to seek freedom from British colonialism. Even Hindu mythological films conveyed subversive messages which the British censors did not detect. After the arrival of sound, many historical, especially those relating to the rule of the Mughals, many historical pictures continue to prepare the nation, the new nation in formation for freedom and beyond. Popular Hindi film songs carried such messages. Dur hato e duniya walo, Hindustan hamara hai. It is taken from an English tune. It's an English tune. And at that time, it seemed that the song was addressed to the Japanese. Okay, but no, it was equally asking the British to leave. The British thought, ye to gana hai sirf. They did not know it, the true meaning of it. There were many songs like that, that carried hidden messages which the people heard and which formed very powerful. They gave rise to passions without which independence could not have been won. Popular Hindi film songs carried such messages. All this had to be done under the gaze of the British censors. Such historical pictures were also prisms which refracted, analyzed significant issues of democratic nation building. In fact, these movies were commentaries on contemporary events presented with a perspective of history. Baiju Bawra, 1952, is amongst the prescient films made immediately following freedom and parliamentary democracy in India. The film has less to do with Akbar's India and more to do with India in the time in which it was made. The ethos of Gandhiji and Pandit Nehru formed the plot's bedrock. The major issues discussed in this film relate to the crucial challenges of freedom of expression, free speech in a democratic society. By presenting an authoritarian medieval society, its tyranny and its arbitrary rules instituted by unaccountable authority, it asks its viewers to critique these very issues in their own time and beyond. I was very fortunate to know Naushad Ali, the composer of this film. Even when I was a boy in East Africa, I had become a fan of his music. And I wrote letters to him. I remember the first letter that I wrote to him was Naushad Ali, Bandra, Bombay. I did not have the address, Carter Road. I did not. But lucky for me, the postman delivered the letter, the letter to Naushad Saab's house. He read it. He always wrote back. He always wrote. We had a correspondence. I never thought I would ever actually meet him. But I did. He came to America because his daughters are married there. His sons-in-laws and family, their families live there. And so once I got a letter from him, I'm coming to Los Angeles. I was living in Washington, D.C. He said, I'm coming to visit my daughter and her family in Los Angeles. And I wrote him back. I said, will you please give me permission to come and visit you? So I took the flight when he came 3,000 miles across, and I met him there. And talking about Baiju Bawra, he said to me, you know, I've heard people say so many good things about my music and songs and all that, and I'm very appreciative. But unfortunately, he said, the issues that the movie was raising, people don't talk about that. And he said when Vijay Bhattji invited me to be the music director of Baiju Bawra, one of my biggest problems was, shall I make the song so good, okay, that they cover the subject of the film? Or should I tone them down so that people can pay attention to the topic that the movie was raising, which were utterly critical to our newly freed nation? And he said, after I always go for a walk. He said, I went for a long walk, and finally I decided, let me make songs that are as strong as possible, as memorable as possible. Because even if our people are not ready to understand the message, their children will grow. They will get educated. Their grandchildren will grow. And one day, if the songs are memorable, they might say, well, maybe, let me go and see that movie. What was that about? What are these songs about? So he said, I took a chance. I took a chance in the future so that a day would come. And so I'm here. And so I'm here. The major issues discussed in the film relate to the crucial challenges of freedom of expression. This subject haunts all free societies and has gained in urgency. With social media, with fake news, look, journalism is one of the most dangerous professions on this planet. Artists are endangered. They are becoming homeless. And every society now has to deal with this subject. How much freedom of expression? Baiju Bawra instructs us in a powerful way. It took up this subject at an amazing time in our own history. And it's an international theme. The movie needs to be known beyond the borders of India. By presenting an authoritarian medieval society, its tyranny and arbitrary rules, again, instituted by unaccountable authority, it asks its viewers to critique these very issues in their own time and beyond. Forgive me for repeating it, but it needs to be. These issues confront all free societies and pose challenges to statecraft. Journalism continues to be amongst the most hazardous professions today. Baju's analogues are even tortured and dismembered. Words, speech are seen as weapons now. Baju Bawra is, from the point of view of its topics, one of the most important yet underappreciated masterpieces of Hindi popular cinema. This film has yet to receive the honor of being one of India's supreme works of popular art. The social order of Baju's medieval society was hierarchical to a granular level. Even the family and its extensions were organized in a pyramid of inequality. Patriarchy. Gauri, even in her pure love, is unequal of Baju. Let us listen to her cry, Mohe bhool gaye Savariya. I'll talk about this song a little bit later. So, Akbar's India was an agrarian feudal society. Such a society was hierarchically organized into strata of diminishing power in the form of a pyramid, with the poorest and the weakest at the bottom and the monarch at the apex. None of the strata connoting power, that is, the authorities, were elected. Authority figures served at the whim of the monarch, the boss. The hierarchical pyramid was seen as God ordained, and so the divine right of kings. Even today, several nations are ruled by such medieval god kings or sultans. They have not disappeared. A princess tried to stand an election in Thailand, and she was prevented by her brother, who is the king, from doing that. आज की खबर, आज की ताज़ा खबर. The monarch was the sovereign. Society did not have any checks and balances to royal power or its delegation or delegates. This society had very few, perhaps even no checks and balances on the so-called natural order of things. ये कुदरती बातें हैं, भगवान ने इसको बनाया है ऐसा. Okay, इसके बारे में क्या सोचना है? I heard things like that, dialogues, as I was growing up. Arrival of freedom and parliamentary democracy. In truth, on August 15th, 1947, the triangle of power was inverted. The people of India were now sovereign, and the authorities were elected for specific duration by the people. They served the people now. The power of the authorities was delegated by the people, the voters, and the authorities answered to them. There was a system of checks and balances, and the Constitution protected the individual from state power. Evidence and inference. What is evidence? Something that furnishes proof. What is inference? A conclusion or opinion that is formed because of known facts or evidence. The viewers of Baju Bawra had to bring responsibility. They were now voters. They were now sovereign. It was their duty to watch the film in an active manner and to ask, in what way does it relate to me? What are my responsibilities? Baju Bawra is a protest film. Anyway, let me go back a little bit. The film's plot provides the evidence from which the viewer can draw his or her own inference, her or his own inference. In Akbar's authoritarian society, with descending power directed towards the base, Baju and his father are at the bottom of the heap. But Gauri is at a lower level still. The film expects the viewer to place his own time against the historical record and ask, has democracy in any way altered the power relations inherited from the past? If not, why? What are the impediments to the realization and growth of real democracy in India? Baiju Bawra is a protest film regarding unchanged class and gender relations in post-independence India. Even though women had achieved suffrage alongside of men and were constitutionally democratized, they were still without equal rights. Even in America today, for every dollar, for the same job, a man earns $1, the woman 75 cents. There is a 25-cent difference, inequality, for which women are fighting. We don't have the Equal Rights Amendment passed for our Constitution. People are struggling for that, even as I speak. Even there, that equality has not come. Baiju Bawra joined a number of very significant post-freedom films, such as Shaukat Rizvi's Jugnu, 1947, Mehboob Khan's Andaz, 1949, Uthaye Ja Unke Sitam Aur Jiye Ja, Uthaye Ja Unke Sitam Aur Jiye Ja. Raj Kapoor's Awara, actually Raj Kapoor's Barsat, not Awara, Barsat, Barsat, Ab Mera Kaun Sahara, Ab Mera Kaun Sahara. Kardar's Jadoo, नादान मोहब्बत वालों के अरमान बदलते रहते हैं. The rest you know. Which protested gender inequality in post-independence India. Yes, they were entertaining films, but they raised very serious issues. The fact that India had emerged as a republic in 1950 did not mean that its ancient society had adjusted to the new order of enlightened governance. Baiju reminds the viewer that much social reform in Indian society had to occur at all levels to bring it in harmony with the new found democracy. Free speech as the fundamental building block of democracy. Here's the First Amendment of the American Constitution. It's about religion and expression. The First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The American Constitution, adopted on December 15, 1791. These freedoms are included and defended in most national and international documents of human rights. There now, that is the museum. In other words, the Museum of News on Pennsylvania Avenue and 10th Street in Washington, D.C. And there is an engraved panel of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Bills of human rights around the world. The English Bill of Rights, 1689. American Bill of Rights, 1789. French Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen, 1789. The United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. The Constitution of India, 1949. All these universally respected national and international documents recognize freedom of expression as the foundation of a democratic society. Here now, from the memorial to one of the finest presidents that America has produced, the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the message regarding the 4 freedoms necessary in a democracy. This message is carved at this memorial, at his memorial in Washington, D.C. freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, freedom from fear, carved in granite. So, freedom of expression does not stand alone. It is inseparable. In other words, what Baiju Bawra was saying, it is for us now to say this movie is a lot more than about simply freedom of expression. Why? Because freedom of expression does not stand alone. It is inseparable from several related freedoms which are intimately linked to it. One, freedom of religion and conscience, freedom of the press, freedom to peaceably assemble, freedom to petition the government for redress of grievances. All these are pillars supporting democracy. Let us take each one of them. Freedom of expression, 1. When Tan Sen issues his proclamation proscribing public expression in the form of chant, recitation or song, in oral culture like India, this meant that the agency by which a community was bound together was called into question. Truth is that all societies at all levels require speech in various forms to create social networks necessary for survival. Human courtship leading to the formation of the couple that creates a new family involves song and dance. Even the bond between the mother and the baby entails forms of song, lullabies. Dheere se aaja re, akhiyan na mein India, dheere se aaja. Albela, 1951. C. Ramchandra. Chitalkar Sahab, yes, one of the greatest composers. Group singing is a method by which human communities have communicated with each other, with the nature and with the spirits by creating melodic bridges. Since the beginning of humankind, speech and its extensions form unique means of communication necessary for survival. To curtail speech is to endanger society. No wonder all fundamental documents of human rights place freedom of speech at the foundation of democracy. Freedom of expression too. Although manuscripts have been written over a couple of thousands of years in Indian history, common people being illiterate did not use the medium. That's what I heard. My dad went to high school. My mom didn't go to, she was a woman. She was deprived of education. But in any case, even though my dad had received some education, we were always told, हम कारीगर लोग हैं, हम अपने जुबान से नहीं बोलते हैं, जीभ से नहीं बोलते हैं, हमारे हाथ बोलते हैं. Speak with your hands. That's us. हम कारीगर लोग हैं. So, the arrival of the printing press in India did not change the situation for most common Indians because the government, the British government, never instituted mass literacy. And in all of his writings, Pandit Nehru comes again and again to this subject, that one of the things in which the British made sure that we would not easily find democracy is because there was no mass education in India. The arrival of the print did not change the situation for most Indians because the government did not institute mass literacy. Common people express themselves in speech and its extensions, in the oral media, song being tradition itself. Why do we need song? Song is text, melody, and rhythm. It is coded speech, meaning it summarizes information in a form that assists memory in space and time. Song is a means of preserving memory. Oral cultures have preserved critical information conducive to their survival in the form of musical speech. We now get a measure of the harm in Tan Sen's attempt to institute censorship. Song is cultural nucleic acid. That is our DNA and RNA. Song is encoded myth, ancient history, the history of eternal deities and heroes. Freedom of religion and conscience. Freedom of speech and its extensions cannot be extricated from the issue of religious freedom and of the freedom of the individual conscience. Since the beginning of history, humans have communicated with unseen spirits by using chant, recitation, and song. Kirtan. Everywhere in the temple, you will see song. That's the way we reach our gods or God. It was that in the past, it continues to be so. Song is alive. The temple would not be a temple without the song. Since the beginning of history, humans have communicated with unseen spirits by using chant, recitation, and song. Any proscription of song expression interferes with the individuals, the families, and the community's means to create bonds with the spiritual universe. To prevent humans to develop relations with the spiritual universe is to expose them to the vicissitudes of the unknown, to the vagaries of nature. This poses danger to survival. The great scholar Mircea Eliade has written, whatever the, and for India this is very important. Then, look at this, kal, aaj or kal. That's the beauty of Indian language. The word for kal, gaya kal, or aane wala kal is the same. Why? Because in the wisdom of our people, however simple they were, there was a common wisdom that as we lift one foot to go in front, to walk, the other foot must be on the ground. If this foot that has been lifted does not remember that, we are not going to be able to go forward. Kal, aaj or kal. It is beautiful that the same word is used from the past and the future. A relationship is developed here. Whatever the historical context, Mircea Eliade writes, in which he is placed, homo religiosus, that is oral man, always believes that there is an absolute reality, the sacred, which transcends the world but manifests itself in this world, thereby sanctifying it and making it more real. He further believes that life has a sacred origin and that human existence realizes all of its potentialities in proportion as it is religious. That is, it participates in reality. Gods created man and the world. The culture's heroes completed the creation, and the history of all these divine and semi-divine works is preserved in myths. By reactualizing sacred history, that is our mission. That's why we have been born. We have been put on this earth to live like our gods, to try and retrace their footsteps. That is the moral way of being alive, ethical way of being alive. By reactualizing sacred history, by imitating divine behavior, man puts and keeps himself close to gods. That is, in the real and the significant. Beautiful. It is beautiful. The song is myth in coded form. Song is myth in coded form. In song, we ask God to be with us. It's a prayer in itself that God, we need you to move into the unknown. Keep us together. I never start my car in the morning. Never start my car in the morning without first saying, thank God for the gift of life that you have given me. I am a mistake-making organism. I am responsible for the mistakes I will make, but you have given me that opportunity. I ask for the spirit of my mom and my dad and my brothers and my sisters. I remember them, the ones who are no longer with me. See, you are there. You are not here bodily, but I know you are there. Be with me. Be with me in this day, so that I will not make as many mistakes as I'm going to. I need your help. I am never alone. I'm always traveling in a society. I am hearing the songs that my mom used to sing. Okay, whenever, or the songs that I heard from films. So, the freedom of the press. In Baju's time, there was no printed newspapers, pamphlets, or books. Although the printing press and its gifts had started to spread in Europe, Mughal India only had its magnificent manuscripts, which were held within the walls of the court. Ordinary people had no access to the gifts of the printing press. In oral culture, the songster was the journalist. He brought news in the form of the chant or the song. Therefore, to prevent such people from practicing their craft, society was kept in dark. Even for oral people, news was important for survival. The songman was more than a mere entertainer. He, she, brought significant information relating to the community's well-being. Even in post-independence times, most common people could not read newspapers or books, yet those who were educated orally communicated information to storytellers, poets, and songmen to keep the common person informed. Cinema helped. The cinema song helped because that is oral poetry. Therefore, by inference, Baju Bawra defended the freedom of the press. By inference. Freedom to peaceably assemble of all mammals, including the primates, non-human primates. Look at the beauty of Hinduism. Hinduism recognizes our intimate relation with nature. Ganesh ji is part elephant and part human. Hanuman ji is part monkey, part human. What is Ramayana? What are these kathas trying to tell us? We have a responsibility. We need them for our survival, as they need us for their survival. Okay? Of all the mammals, including the non-human primates, humans are the most social. It takes approximately 18 years, probably more for some. Some never grow up, for an individual's nervous system to mature. Mature to a stage of independent existence. Some remain mama's boys all life. वो घर में ही रहते हैं. That's right. Anyway, during those 18 years, the individual engages with the family and the community routinely to develop the social skills necessary for individual survival. In Africa, there is a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It summarizes the essence of being human. A major function of speech is to create assembly so that the group can come together to develop better interpersonal skills and to collaborate for survival and flourishment. साथ ही हाथ बढ़ाना, एक अकेला थक जाएगा, मिलकर बोझ उठाना. That's what I'm trying to say. In oral societies, collective chanting and singing are always to communicate with nature and the invisible spirits to secure survival. Even authoritarian societies see the necessity to peaceably assemble and even to plead with authorities regarding their challenges. Any attempt to attenuate, reduce free speech weakens society and poses danger to it. Freedom to petition the government for redress of grievances. Throughout the role of the Mughals in India, it was customary for the monarch to appear before people's assembly in the palace courtyard, the durbar, especially designed to admit people to individually or in groups present their grievances against the state. These assemblies were presided over by the king's cabinet, where a member of this cabinet could speak in behalf of the plaintiff. Again, such assemblies would not yield successful goal without the exercise of free speech. The special nature of Baju's music. From times immemorial, a stratum of singers and dancers have functioned as integral parts of the temple culture. They proclaim the message of the scripture in chant, recitation, and the song. Oh my God, such a fond memory when I was a young boy growing up. My friend Kakaji, Mohinder Singh, my dear friend, we would always go to the temple. I was hungry. I was just going for the langar. He said, just put on a turban. Come with me. Okay? We would go there and join with the what kirtan, with the singing. Yes, that's right. Okay. I earned the langar. Yes, very fond memory. They proclaimed the message of the scripture in chant, recitation, and song. Baju is believed to be one of the greatest bhajan singers in Indian folk history. A bhajan is closely related to kirtan, with both sharing common aims, subjects, musical themes, and being devotional performance arts. A bhajan is more free in form and can be singular melody that is performed by a single singer with or without one and more musical instrument. The word bhajan means sharing. Therefore, it needs an assembly, assembly for its performance. What is shared is the spiritual experience of being human. Gandhiji incorporated these spirituals during the struggle for liberation. More than slogans, it was the bhajan that guided India towards its freedom and beyond. Call those people Vaishnavas who feel the pain of others. Help those who are in misery, but never let self-conceit enter their mind. Ownership of information and channels of communication. Who has ownership of information and the channels in which it is conveyed to society? Let's look at medieval society, like Akbar's. The emperor king was believed to be the god or nature ordained owner of the realm, the sovereign of the land, nature, and his or her subjects, her or his subjects. Information and its channels were amongst the properties that belonged to the sovereign, the ruler. On a whim, she or he could decide what information to give to the people and which channels were appropriate. Obviously, the ruler used information and its channels to maintain the hierarchical order with himself at the top. Republican society, what about there? In democratic society, information and its channels ultimately belong to the people who are sovereign. The people and their elected representatives are the keepers and agents of information and its transport. Every citizen carries the burden as the sovereign individual of ownership of the state's information. To be educated regarding information and to manage it is essential. Truthful information is the bedrock of democracy. Pandit Nehru on democracy and informed public opinion. For democracy to be successful, it must have a background of informed public opinion and a sense of responsibility. Without education, there is no that sense. That sense of responsibility arises. Without education, you don't even have the vocabulary to think about your rights. There is no mass educational system in India. No effort to build public opinion based on knowledge. That was in the pre-independence period that he was writing. in 1940. Summary. I'm not saying that Baiju Bawra directly speaks about all these freedoms which are the essential building blocks of modern democracy in its plot, but the fact is that it was made following the arrival of parliamentary democracy in 1947 in India, leading to the formation of the Republican state in 1950. The movie was released in 1952, and its viewers were already citizens of a republic with a constitution and a complex set of laws protecting their rights. Republic, a state in which the supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. Therefore, the movie is a prism refracting the achievement of such a republic with some of the most significant laws governing it. The movie asked each viewer to infer his or her rights in the new government, which was ultimately answerable to him or her. It was the individual's responsibility now. He could no longer say, no, it is you, it is for you. The movie is addressed to you. Apotheosis of Baiju. Baiju breaks into Tansen's compound and residence and brings sudden halt to the great musician Sargam. The sword misses the mark and kills the tanpura. In Indian tradition, the musical instrument, which while it is being played, is seen as a living extension of the human playing it. Thus Baiju, a musician of faith songs, ends up committing homicide. He murders a living instrument. He had taken an innocent life. Not only that, he had himself engaged in censorship. He had killed the song. In response to the attack, Tansen makes the following points. Point. Baiju's violence had in no way offered a reasoned narrative of his grievances. Point. He had given no convincing argument as to why such censorship was injurious to him, his family, or his community. Why is the law prohibiting free speech unjust? Why should Baiju have freedom of speech? These questions are not raised or discussed by Baiju. He just brought his sword. Freedom of expression should aim to bring convincing argument against the opposing view. It should engage in discussion, in argument, and even debate regarding the merits of his proposition. It was not clear what Baiju even had, whether he had the language to formulate his grievances. Tansen to Baiju, you cannot ask for free expression without being a competent, informed, and persuasive agent of your cause. For this you need education. Are you sure you can sing the sort of song I was in the process of developing so deliberately? Do you even know why I was doing the sargam? By inference, Tansen asked Baiju if the means he had chosen would achieve the goal he was after. Did he even know that unjust means would never achieve a just end? It is to Baiju's credit that he was open to Tansen's reasoning and decided to seek the kind of education that would qualify him to make his arguments. No education, no democracy. Gandhiji and Pandit Nehru, their philosophies are embedded in that scene. They are embedded in that scene. Awara, 1951. Boot Polish, 1951. Baiju Bawra, 1952. Post-independence films, they emphasize the necessity of education. Let's look at Awara. Okay, its title song, Awara hu ya gardish mein hu na asman ka tara hu. This idiot says, I'm free now. I can go here, I can go there. Okay, he has no responsibility. Ghar baar nahi, kuch pyar. You can hear the song. It's a beautiful. I love the song. I love the song. It's one of the freedom songs, but it is a song about freedom minus responsibility. He had no idea. He had no idea what true freedom meant. That freedom carried with it serious responsibilities of the exercise of freedom. That was one of the major messages of the movie, in my opinion. Now the historical genesis of Vijay Bhatt's Baiju Bawra. In several conversations that I had with the late composer Naushad Sahab, he informed me that the subjects, especially that of the freedom of expression in a society, that were integral to his film, were born during the years of World War I, when director Vijay Bhatt was growing into manhood. At that time, both Gandhiji and Pandit Nehru had returned to India to organize and propel the freedom movement along with the people. The colonial British government had responded with several draconian laws to dampen these efforts. Let us refresh kal, gaya hua kal. Let's bring it now. Let's bring it into Aaj. Amongst these are what happened. As soon as the war began in 1914, the war to end all wars, they called it. H.G. Wells called it that way. I love it. In 1915, the Defense of India Act was passed with absolute powers. Which powers? Preventive detention, internment without trial, restriction of writing and speech, restriction of freedom to assemble. Point. The Rowlatt Act, to us known as the Black Act of 1919, which included all of the above prohibitions, but with added clauses: stricter control of the press, arrest without warrant, indefinite detention without trial. In response to these draconian measures, Mahatma Gandhi initiated the Rowlatt Satyagraha to defy this unjust legislation. It is this move that led to the tragic massacre of Amritsar, Jallianwala Bagh, which led to my family exiling itself from the Punjab. Why? Because my parents said, we did not want to die. We were afraid of death. We thought that in Black Africa we'll be able to hide from death. He will not find us. The uncompromising use of non-violence, ahimsa, was part of this protest of truth. Unfortunately, as a response to the massacre, ordinary people could not contain their passions. On February 5, 1922, at Chauri Chaura, Gorakhpur district, UP, people attacked the police station and killed its occupants. Gandhiji was horrified and immediately suspended the non-cooperation movement. He firmly believed that there had to be a deep connection between means and the end. So that scene between Tansen and Baiju Bawra. You cannot use sword to achieve positive ends. Okay? It comes straight out of this. True liberation was not possible if the process involved violence. It is this memory that haunted Sri Vijay Bhatt, who went on to become one of the leading filmmakers of a critical period during the freedom struggle. In 1942, he directed the famous movie Ram Rajya, which was the only film that Gandhiji saw, and he didn't like it. He did not approve of cinema. Okay? It was too Western. In 1942, the Ram Rajya. Okay. The project to make a film regarding the issues raised by the draconian acts of the British colonial administration remained with Vijay Bhatt for a long time, but he did not know how to make a popular film which would address those critical issues related to the liberation movement. In 1943, he saw Jain Desai's film Tansen with Kundan Lal Saigal and Khurshid. Diya jalao, जगमग जगमग दिया जलाओ, in Rag Deepak. Unforgettable memory. I saw it as a child. Composer Khemchand Prakash. It is this film, and especially its music, which finally opened the avenue that eventually led to Baiju Bawra. And composer Naushad had been Khemchand Prakash's student. Pandit Nehru on popular cinema and its music, from his autobiography. I have only seen, listen to this, okay? It's beautiful. It is, वो कहते हैं दिए के नीचे अंधेरा होता है, दिए के नीचे सबसे ज्यादा अंधेरा उसके नीचे है. कहाँ जा रहा है तू ऐ जाने वाले, अंधेरा है मन का, दिया तो जला ले. लेकिन जलाने से ये भी सोचना उसके नीचे क्या है. Listen to this. I have only been once to a talkie so far, and the great names of cinema stars are names only to me. I am told, okay, now what? It's not direct evidence. He does not have that. He is saying himself, मैंने तो एक ही पिक्चर देखी, लेकिन लोग मुझे कहते हैं, people, I am told, hearsay, okay? I am told that most Indian films, both silent and talkies, do not err on the side of artistry. They are usually operettas and melodramas, drawing upon some theme from old Indian history or mythology. Ah, you, a great historian yourself, you're looking at a popular art that is what, talking about history and mythology, and you think this is not good? I don't know what to say. And he continues, the middle classes, let's look at this. The middle classes, they seem to have lost their roots and have no aesthetic traditions to cling to. They glory in cheap and horrid prints made in bulk in Germany and Austria, and sometimes rise up to Ravi Verma's pictures, sometimes. The harmonium is their favorite instrument. I live in hope. Look at this Democrat. Look at this freedom fighter. What is he saying? I live in hope that one of the earliest acts of Swaraj government will be to ban this awful instrument. In Gurdwara, you cannot do shlok without everywhere in, but it is the common. What is a harmonium? For God's sakes, it is as Indian as biryani, as chapati, as dal bhat. Why? It is a lung. There's only so much lungs you can do. Raju Bhartan, the great movie critic, I consider him to be my guru. I've never met him. But as a child in the early 1950s, my brother Ayub, late Ayub, he was waiting for me to come back from school. He was sitting on the veranda, waiting. He had a magazine in his hands, Filmfare. And I had not even arrived at the veranda. He shot out and started to hit me on the head with the Filmfare. He said, read this article. Read this article. Raju Bhartan was writing an article where he had analyzed film music. And my brother said, look, film music is not just for entertainment. This is serious stuff. You should read this article and try to understand our songs, the deeper story that they are trying to tell. So here we are. In other words, he's already talking about banning an instrument. So I was going to say, the point is this. I was going to tell you about Saigal. Okay, I lost my point. Forgive me. So Raju Bhartan was talking about Kundan Lal Saigal, the father of cinema song, the singing of it. He perfected it. And he said, Saigal could never sing a song without the harmonium. Peti के बगैर वो गा ही नहीं सकते थे. तो कभी-कभी स्टूडियो में एक डमी पेटी रखी जाती थी, क्योंकि स्वर and they were connected. In him, they were inseparable. They were inseparable. This was what? An instrument made of wood, a dead tree. The spirit of that tree was in that instrument. We need that to be singing with that tree that we had killed. My uncle Ibrahim, he had worked in a sawmill in East Africa. He had killed many trees and torn them. And you could see, look at those designs, look at this, look at the tree. You could see, never paint the wood, he said. Son, never. When you killed the tree, it started to cry and weep. Those are tears that are frozen in there. We need to be aware of our crime. And when we become aware, we pay homage to that tree. We make its spirit happy by feeling some sorrow of what we did. My uncle went deaf, Mamaji. He went deaf, he could not hear anything. Very hard, we had to shout in his ears. He would say, this is just punishment for so many trees I killed, but I had to feed my family. I had no choice. It's a fair price. Anyway, so Kal, Aaj or Kal, I've made my point. Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. George Santayana. The past is never dead. It's not even past. William Faulkner, the American novelist and writer, won the Nobel Prize. Life imitates art. B.V. Keskar, Minister of Information and Broadcasting in Prime Minister Nehru's cabinet. This is what, in the same year when Vijay Bhatt's Baiju Bawra was released, with enormous public appeal in movie theatres all over India, Minister Keskar and my brothers here now what? They have been taking me around Bombay. They have been showing me what you call the great buildings designed by Edwin Lutyens, Englishman, who did not even want chhatris on the building. He did not want Indian buildings. These people sitting in those offices made by an Englishman are now saying this. In the same year when Vijay Bhatt's Baiju Bawra was released, with enormous public appeal in movie theatres all over India, Minister Keskar instituted censorship of popular Hindi film songs in All India Radio, AIR. AIR being information and entertainment lifeline of the new democratic nation. He believed that, quotes, the lyrics aside from being in Urdu, oh my God, what a terrible crime. What a terrible crime. And then continue, Urdu were generally erotic, oh my God, sex. They made you want to have sex, okay? And use Western instruments and Western melodies. Popular film songs were the medium of a lower stage of human evolution. The popular Hindi film song was exiled, Banbas we call it, the way my family was exiled. I have come back to you from exile, my friends. They used to call it what? Kala Pani. They had to cross that black water because when you took that journey, people knew you were not coming back. You were not coming back. As I told you, after my talk yesterday, I cried for hours that I've been so lucky to come back, that you brought me here. The popular Hindi film song was exiled to Sri Lanka, from where Radio Ceylon broadcast it to the free people of India. Indeed, all of South Asia, the film song celebrated liberty. It is our freedom song. These radio broadcasts reached the far shores of the great Indian Ocean and reconnected the exiled communities of common Indians living in various colonies where they had been dispatched by the British in the second half of the 19th century. Once again, the lost people of India in faraway places from their homeland were reconnected with their ancestral homeland by means of songs. And yes, despite bloody fractures, South Asian nations continued to be united by their popular Hindi, Hindustani, Urdu film songs. Even to this day, there is no border for songs. It is still India. Adaptive necessity of cultural hybridity. Nehru on Nehru. He's talking about himself. Indeed, I have become a queer mixture of the East and the West. Out of place everywhere, at home nowhere. I love this. I really love it. Perhaps my thoughts and approaches to life are more akin to what is called Western than Eastern. But India clings to me as she does to all her children in innumerable ways. And behind me lie, somewhere in the subconscious, racial memories. I cannot get rid of the past inheritance of my recent acquisitions. They are both part of me. Though they help in both the East and the West, they also create in me a feeling of spiritual loneliness, not only in public activities, but in life itself. I'm a stranger, an alien in the West. I cannot be of it. But in my own country also sometimes I have an exile's feeling. I understand that so deeply. I love Nehruji. I can criticize him, but that doesn't mean I don't love him. This is so profound. His book, remember, they always said, in the last century, 2 Indians were deprived of the Nobel Prize. Gandhiji for peace, and I say Nehru for literature. Nobody has produced in jail the kind of literature that Nehruji produced. There is such grandeur in the works. You can disagree with him. All the faults are there. He himself is saying, look at my stuff. Okay? And you can see where I went wrong. You know, he's not hiding any of it. There is truth there. It's wonderful stuff. This is what he says. So I'm saying, if the Hindi film song is hybrid, he himself was hybrid. And his minister had sent the song out because it was in Urdu and it was talking about sex. W. Montague Cobb, Howard University College of Medicine, where I taught for 40 years. 40 years dissecting human bodies. 40 years of intimate company with the dead. I remember going to a cadaver, just lying there, and I was about to go away from the lab. And suddenly, it is as if the dead was asking me, come back, I want to talk to you a little bit. Chalo ek baar phir se ajnabi ban jaye hum dono. Remember, he said, that's what your spirit is going to be telling you one day. It is not going to keep you company forever. Appreciate life while you have it. Enjoy it. Because one day, that spirit will become ajnabi. It will say bye-bye. Anyway, this is Dr. Montague Cobb, an anatomist, but he was also a civil rights leader. He was talking to me. The story of the New World cannot be told without the enslavement of the people of Africa to develop the newly discovered lands. Black hands built the New World. My ancestors were not brought here for their hearts, minds, or souls. We were brought here for our bodies. When I teach anatomy to medical students, I try my best to share with them the following belief. Whatever part of your body was used to make you a slave, you must study it, reflect upon it, and figure out a way, devise a strategy of using it to free yourself and all those who suffer like you. that is what happened here. It happened here. The builders of the British Empire in India brought all the fruits of modern world. Industrial revolution. For example, the printing press, the steam engine, the railway, the telegraph, the camera, science-based liberal education, photogravure, sound recording, science-based medicine and more. This technology was used for exploitation, control and slavery. However, very quickly visionary Indians got busy to learn these technologies and to devise methods to fuse them with existing handicrafts and instruments so that they could use this very technology that enslaved them to free themselves. Everything. Smart Indians got busy designing ways of using them against the people who were enslaving them. The future was coming. It had to be embraced. Without a deep-seated dialogue between the East and the West, India could not move forward. But with knowledge, it had the chance. Let's look at the picture next now. Because the picture speaks 1,000 words. Next one, please, thank you. Look at this. Look at this. In 1931, filmmakers in India had created the most powerful science and technology-based mass medium, which played a critical role in uniting India, preparing it for freedom and beyond. In the process, they created one of the world's leading film industries. What is a Hindi film song? मेरे मन की गंगा और तेरे मन की जमुना का बोल राधा बोल संगम होगा कि नहीं अरे बोल राधा बोल संगम होगा कि नहीं. What am I talking about? Let's look at this. There is papa and his sperm. There is mum and secondary oocyte, immature egg. In the fallopian tube, they come together. They fuse together, and what? The diploid chromosome set results in the new baby, the new individual. Okay? Half of the chromosomes of the baby are from the mom. Half are from the father. But you cannot reduce them back to mom and dad. This individual is something new. It is irreducible to where it came from, and that must be respected. Why? Because the time of mom, the world is changing. Tomorrow is not going to be like today. The purpose of sex is what? It is to renew yourself, is to so that you are prepared for the unknown world. When people, oh, to bilkul father jaise hai bhai, kya baat hai? Oh, it's bad. You are, if a child is exactly like father or the mother, he or she is in danger of what you call being extinct. No, you want to respect that individuality. That is something new, something that has never existed. It is not papa, it is not mother. The function of good parenting is to what? Is to husband the individuality of the child. Here we go. Birth of the Hindi film song. Look at this. Indian, I always hear, अरे यार क्लासिकी गीत तो क्या बात थी, सिनेमा में वो क्या गीत बन सकता है? You know, they compare apples and oranges. There you are, Indian classical music, traditional pre-industrial temple or court music. There is folk music, okay, traditional pre-industrial rural, village music. Now when cinema music came, the composers had to take something from there, something from here, feed it through that new technology, and what? Give birth to the Hindi film song. This is the modern, you know what? Naushad Sahab told me this. He said, Aziz Sahab, हमारा क्लासिकी गीत बैठ के गाया जाता है, हमारा फोक गीत भी लोग बैठ के गाते हैं, फिल्मी गीत के लिए खड़ा होना पड़ता है, आज़ादी के लिए पहले खड़ा होना पड़ेगा और आगे चलना पड़ेगा. Yes. No, it is not useful to compare the film song with the classical song. None of the songs of Baiju Bawra are classical. None of them are folk. They are what they are, a film song, are inspired by classical music, inspired by folk music. But something new has been created. Some of the greatest music of America, jazz, was created in America. It used so many lines to put together something unique. So here, may I have the next slide? Okay, let me come to this. So Naushad Ali on Indian music. I agree with this and don't agree with it. This is a quote. Classical sangeet has never been the art of the masses. Correct. It was first born in the sacred temples and later flourished in the glamorous courts of Raja, maharajas and nawabs. The common people had no access to the great durbars, were never offered the opportunity to listening to classical music. True. They could not therefore acquire an appreciative ear for it. Film music, a spontaneous growth emerging from an older folk tradition and adapting itself to a new era and its influences, is the real folk music of modern India. I agree with that. Cinema song was born and grew alongside of the liberation movement. The pop film and its songs are the arts of the democracy and freedom in India. Look at this song now. Mera juta hai Japani, ye patloon Englistani, sar pe lal topi Rusi, phir bhi dil hai Hindustani. It's not about Raju. It's about the song itself too. It is saying I'm using many different influences, but I am me. I am in my heart is who I am. So the Indian film song is as Indian as biryani has said. It is the freedom song of India, which include all of its people's voices and melodies. It facilitated the formation of the Indian nation and guided it towards freedom and beyond. Baiju Bawra in its music. It is not surprising that the outstanding music of this film was composed by none other than Naushad. Naushad, I'm quoting now, a scholar. Naushad, though one of the first composers to bring the Western orchestra, and that's where I disagree. That orchestra is no longer Western. The orchestra that we use in our film song is no longer Western. I said it yesterday. So Lata Mangeshkar presented a program of the songs that she sang for Nargis, the late Nargis, in Royal Albert Hall while Nargis was alive. Nargis and her husband Sunil Dutt, another wonderful actor, they had gone, they were the special guests, and Lata was going to sing some of the songs that she had sung for Nargis. She used a British orchestra, the Wren Orchestra. There is a record of that. Play it and play the original song. Uthaye ja unke sitam aur jiye ja. Play them. You will see they were not able to recreate that orchestra. The soul was not there. Why? Because that orchestra, our Pankaj Malik, Anil Vishwas, Ghulam Haider, all of these great musicians had experimented with using Western instruments in combination with our own instruments. Now remember, Western instruments involve arrangement, a written piece of music. Our music is oral. The two are combined together. Okay, that orchestra, and Naushad Sahab told me, he said, why do I play the orchestra? क्यों इतने violins हैं? क्यों इतने instruments हैं? He said, remember, एक फूल से गुलदस्ता नहीं बनता है. गुलदस्ता बनाने के लिए हमें बाग चाहिए. हिंदुस्तान ऐसा बाग है. मेरे गीत में हर इंस्ट्रूमेंट एक आवाज है. एक आवाज इंसान की होगी. वादक जो हैं वो इतने और हिंदुस्तानी उससे मिलकर गाते हैं. All of my songs are not just solo songs. They involve all of the people within which that individual lived. That's why I needed the orchestra. to give voice to the diverse peoples of India. So Naushad, though one of the first composers to bring Western orchestra, in particular the large string section, the film music was able to move seamlessly between classical Indian ragas and Western dramatic music in the way that no other composer has done. Although the subject matter of this film requires Indian classical music, Naushad was able to blend this with light classical and contemporary music. What she is missing is folk, lok sangeet. Lok sangeet is very important to our, cinema music. In a way that one of the finest components of the whole range of music essential for Hindi film, Rachel Dwyer. And so there is the Ragmala of Baiju Bawra. Again, Rachel Dwyer. One sequence alone would ensure this film's inclusion in most lists of 100 best films. This is the astonishing depiction, the ragas or melodies, where they are embodied in a manner drawing on the classical paintings of ragmalas that illustrate the moods associated with the ragas. The combination of visuals and music in this sequence overwhelms the viewer as much as it does Baiju himself in the film. Again, Rachel Dwyer, wonderful scholar. So in summary, Baiju Bawra compares and contrasts medieval agrarian feudal society of top-down unchecked power with modern industrial urban India based on democracy. It shows that adverse consequences of censorship and attenuated speech in a traditional oral society like India. The consequences: loss of freedom to assemble, loss of conscience and of belief, loss of the freedom of the press, loss of freedom to petition the government regarding unjust practices. Point: the necessity of mass education based on literacy to enable citizens to make informed decisions necessary for democracy. The futility of violence to achieve humane ends. The necessity to learn from past mistakes in order to expand individual citizens' pursuit of a happy life. As I said, all of my work has required a village, helpers and friends. I bow to them. Composer Naushad Ali, who shared his views on this unique film. Rachel Dwyer, Marshall McLuhan, Vijay Lakshmi Deseram, Professor Javrimal Parak, Mr. Asad Zaidi and his family, Mr. Nalin Shah, the critic, Mr. Harmandir Singh Hamraz, without whose encyclopedia we would not, an individual effort of this wonderful man, Mr. V.A.K. Rangarao, Mr. Stafford Battle. I live analog life, pencil, paper, pencil, pen and paper. I don't do computers. I don't do digital. But my friend and brother, African American, Mr. Stafford Battle, he does all of my digital work. And now he enjoys Indian movies. He watches them on YouTube himself. Because, it's, we work together. He types the things for me and all that. So he's become very interested. I bring his greetings to you, by the way. Raju Bhartan, my guru, whom I have never met. Ayub Aziz, another guru, my older brother, who's passed on. Akram Aziz, my older brother, who's also passed on. Dr. Barbara Dunn, my wife. Dr. Ramchandra Guha, the historian. All of them helped me to write this. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.